Hello, this is Nathan Oxenfeld with Integral Eyesight Improvement. And today I want to teach you about blinking. I'm here at my Airbnb in Zagreb, Croatia, the capital of Croatia. I just finished attending the International Light Association conference in Pula, Croatia, called Light and Color for Health and Well-Being, and it was absolutely incredible. And I'm getting ready to attend and to teach at the International Holistic Vision Conference happening in Frankfurt, Germany next week. Like in the past, I'll probably be releasing a conference recap episode of the Naked Eye podcast after I get back home from this Europe trip, because there's a lot of amazing things to share from both of these conferences. But today I want to share a video with you about blinking, as taught by the Bates method. It's actually been a little while since I've shared a Bates Method 101 video. I think the last one I did was almost a year ago when I was traveling down under, when I was in New Zealand, and I taught you about shifting. Now, blinking and shifting are very similar, so hopefully you'll make some connections between that video and this video. But since then, I've been super busy. After concluding my trip in New Zealand and Australia, I moved back to Asheville, North Carolina. And so I did put up some videos giving you a tour of the new Integral Eyesight Improvement Center there in Asheville. But shortly after I got back, I launched a new 6-month vision improvement program. And so I've spent the past 6 months, it just finished up this month, I spent the past 6 months filming new videos for that program and teaching classes for that and guiding a group of students through that 6-month vision improvement program. And now that that one's completed, I'm getting ready to start up the next group that's going to go from November 2019 to April 2020. So if you're curious about participating in that, you can head to my website, integraleyesight.com, and look for the 6-month vision improvement program link. Also, this summer has been a lot more devoted to podcasts than videos. I not only have been keeping up with my Naked Eye podcast, but I also launched my second podcast, the new Better Eyesight podcast. Myself and my co-host Esther Joy Vanderwerf, as well as many other guest vision educators we're incorporating, are going to be reading you every single episode of Dr. Bates's Better Eyesight magazines that he published from July 1919 to June 1930. So we launched this new podcast in July 2019, exactly 100 years after its original publication. And we're going to be releasing a new podcast every single month for 11 years. So we've released 3 so far, July, August, and September. We're about to send out the next one for October, the 4th episode. And it's a really exciting project. Not only are we providing an audio format, an audio version of Dr. Bates's original materials, but we're also having some discussions in between each article to actually help you have an easier understanding of the sometimes outdated language or some of these concepts that I know they went over my head the first time I read them. So I wish I would have had someone there to walk me through it and explain every little part of it as we go. So it's an exciting project, and I'm excited to be heading that up and sharing that with you. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you can find that at bettereyesightpodcast.com. Or you can just search for Better Eyesight Podcast in any podcast listening app that you use. I've also been doing some traveling this year. I did my first 4-day vision retreat in Vancouver this summer, which was amazing. And I'm getting ready to offer my second 4-day vision retreat in Asheville in October 17th to the 20th. And with this video, I also uploaded a second video to accompany it where I explain what these vision retreats are and how they work in case you want to join in. There's a few spaces left on this one in October, but also just to learn more about the future retreats I'll be offering starting in year 2020 and beyond. And speaking of the year 2020, This year we also began filming for our Vision 2020 documentary, From Eyesight to Insight. My colleague Barry Oxenfeld from Australia and I are heading up this project to interview some of the world's leading natural vision educators, not just in America and Australia, but from all around Europe as well, and other countries. It's part of the reason why I'm here in Europe right now. We're really excited to be putting out the very first film about natural vision improvement in the year 2020, not only as a pun about 2020 vision, but that's also the 100-year anniversary of Dr. Bates's book, Perfect Sight Without Glasses. So there's just a lot going on right now, which is why you may not have heard from me as much here on YouTube. But I'm starting to go through some of the comments and respond to some of your questions and comments on here. So thank you for your patience with me, and I'm excited to kind of be back and sharing some more practices with you starting now and moving forward as well. So information about all that stuff can be found on my website, integraleyesight.com. So head over there for all that information. But now it's time to dive into today's topic, which is blinking. So as you've been watching the video so far, have you been blinking? How many times have you been blinking? Have you been conscious of your blinking or unconscious of your blinking? Blinking is a very involuntary, natural response of the body that it does automatically all day without you controlling it. But it's also possible to do it incorrectly or to do it not enough. I remember when I was first reading Dr. Bates's book and his magazines, I was actually kind of astounded about how much he talked about blinking. When I was first reading about it, I was like, what is this guy talking about? I'm already blinking. Why is he wasting so much time writing about this, making me read about it, when I already know how to blink? I've been blinking my whole life. But I didn't realize that there's correct blinking and incorrect blinking. So why don't I start off by reading a short little passage from the June 1924 Better Eyesight for you. It's just a short little paragraph here about blinking. And then we'll dissect it and talk about what incorrect blinking is, what correct blinking is, and how blinking is so important for normal, healthy eyesight. So Dr. Bates writes, "The normal eye, when it has normal sight, rests very frequently by closing the eyes for longer or shorter periods, and when practiced quickly, it is called blinking. When the normal eye has normal sight and refrains from blinking for some seconds or part of a minute, the vision always becomes imperfect. You can demonstrate that normal vision at the near point or at the distance is impossible without frequent blinking. Most people blink so easily and for such a short period of time that things are seen continuously while the blinking is done unconsciously. In some cases, one may blink 5 times or more in 1 second. The frequency of blinking depends on a number of factors. The normal eye blinks more frequently or more continuously under adverse conditions, as when the illumination is diminished, the distance is increased, or the print read is too pale or otherwise imperfect. The distraction of conversation, noise, reflections of light, objects so arranged as to be difficult to see, all increase the frequency of blinking of the normal eye with normal sight. If the frequency of blinking is diminished under adverse conditions, or from any cause, the vision soon becomes imperfect. The imperfect eye, or the eye with imperfect sight, blinks less frequently than the normal eye. Staring stops the blinking. The universal optical swing, the long or short swing, when modified or stopped, are always accompanied by less frequent blinking." Then he ends it with this nice little poem here. "Blink in the early morning, blink when the sun sets at night, blink when the sun is dawning, but be sure you do it right. So Bates is showing his artistic side there of sharing that little limerick there to kind of help you remember to be blinking all day long. So what is he saying in this analysis of blinking? Well, first of all, he's saying that blinking rests the eyes. One of the simplest ways to rest your eyes is to close them. So if you just close your eyes right now, you are resting your eyes. And you might hold your eyes closed for 10 seconds or 30 seconds or up to a half an hour. Maybe you want to take a little nap, a little cat nap, and you close and rest your eyes. This is the best way to rest your eyes. But when we do it very frequently or very short amount of time, that's called blinking. So you can think about every single blink you take in your day is a little miniature rest. It's like a little miniature nap for your eyes. And when we don't blink enough, our vision deteriorates. It gets worse. It becomes imperfect. And this is something that most people with vision problems have in common, is they do not blink enough. And when they do blink, they blink incorrectly. So what is incorrect blinking? Well, incorrect blinking is blinking accompanied by strain. There's tension, there's tightness, it might be too slow, it might be full of effort, and it really might interfere with your vision. Because he says that correct blinking, your vision is almost continuous. It's almost like the blink didn't even happen, you didn't even see it. Now, the more conscious we become of the blink, we can really realize that even when we are doing a soft, gentle, relaxed, rapid blink, that there is a little period of blackness. The vision, the image, the movie is broken up. There's a little break in the vision. And there's also a little shift that happens. But when the blinking is unconscious, when we're not paying attention to it, when we're doing it correctly, it's almost like the movie doesn't have that pause. It doesn't have that little moment of blackness. The vision it seems more continuous. Now he also points out that blinking can be done so rapidly that you can blink up to 5 times or more in 1 second without even knowing it or seeing it, or people observing you wouldn't even be able to notice it. And that's a lot faster and more rapid than you could do consciously. He's referring to the unconscious blink. So the Bates method isn't telling you to sit there and just be blinking all the time. That's not what he's talking about. It's these very rapid, almost undetectable blinks. So a full blink would be a complete closure of the eyes. It's like your upper eyelid and your lower eyelid meet. And sometimes as I was learning how to blink correctly, I used to use a certain language. I used to think about my upper eyelid and my lower eyelid kissing each other. Just a quick little, just a little peck on the cheek or whatever. And it was a way for me to instill some softness and some gentleness, because I realized that I had some hardness in my blink, especially when I first started taking my glasses off and my vision was all blurry still. I had this tendency to kind of do like a big blink, a big hard blink where I would kind of squeeze the eyes shut. And I think the reason I was doing that was not only because my eyes were full of strain and I had bad vision habits, but I also noticed that sometimes that created a little bit of clarity. It created a little clear flash. The reason for that is because it's sort of a variation of the tense and release. So I remember at my yoga teacher training, we would do tense and release of all the muscles in the body from head to toe, where you tense the muscles, you make a fist really tight, and then you release the muscles. Or you squeeze your feet or your muscles in your legs really tight and you release them. Now we would do that with all the muscles in the face as well, including the eyes. So we would finish off by making a prune face. We would, squeeze all the muscles in the face towards the tip of the nose, and that would include squeezing the eyes tightly and then releasing them. And I found that when I did the tense and release, sometimes I would see much more clearly without my glasses for a few moments, and then it would kind of fade away again. And so I wondered, maybe I can do that more throughout the day, and that will give me more clear flashes. And it kind of worked, but it wasn't really that sustainable. And sometimes I notice my students doing this too, like kind of doing a sort of a big hard blink. And my recommendation would be, instead of doing that as a new vision habit, which isn't the best idea, I would encourage you to learn the correct blinking as the ongoing vision habit, and then every once in a while throughout the day, just do a tense and release. So instead of trying to do like a bunch of little tense and releases all throughout the day, just do a few like bigger ones at a time, maybe in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening. Like actually do a big breath and let it go and release that strain. But when it comes to your everyday life and looking at a book or a computer or talking to someone, you really don't want to be doing this. People are going to notice that. And this is called natural vision improvement, right? So we're trying to learn a natural way to use our eyes. So some of the advice Bates gives is, if you want to learn how to blink correctly, hang out with somebody who has perfect vision, whether it's an adult with perfect vision, or he also talks about observing infants and babies, how they blink, and emulate that. That way, when you're talking to someone and you're blinking normally, they're not going to notice that you're blinking. We want it to be subtle, we want it to be natural, we want it to be unconscious. So you need to learn the correct soft way to blink as your ongoing vision habit. And I want you to separate that and have the tense and release practice as a separate category. Now, he says the frequency of blinks depends on factors. When we have adverse conditions like poor lighting or low contrast or distractions of conversations or things like that, our eye is actually meant to blink more frequently, because the more we blink, the better we see. And so if it's dim light or poor contrast, then our eye that's the mechanism built into our visual system to help see better by blinking more. But if the conditions are favorable, if we have plenty of light, if we have high contrast, the frequency of the blink might be low, might not need to blink quite as much. So don't get too hung up on exactly how often to blink or how much to blink. The average blink rate is about 28,000 blinks per day. And that comes out to about blinking every 3 to 4 seconds. But like Bates points out, sometimes we can blink multiple times in 1 second. So there's no one set, correct amount to blink or how often or frequently. What's more important is the end of that poem, he says, but be sure you do it right. Now, one of the most important things about blinking is that it accompanies shifting. Like I mentioned before, I have the whole video about shifting where I talk about these subtle movements and shifts and little swings happening in your eyes and your vision. And blinking is a big part of that. So let's see if we can demonstrate that. If you are looking at me on the screen and you're blinking, can you actually notice that my head actually appears to move a little bit as you blink? Or another way to say that is, when you blink, your eyes might actually move. They might land on a different part of my face each time you open. Maybe that's happening on its own, or maybe you might need to be a little conscious of it to actually blink open on one of my eyes and then blink to the other eye and then blink to my nose, blink to my forehead, blink to my ear, blink to my other ear, maybe blink around on the map behind me of Zagreb. And notice that the blink initiates a shift. Another word for shifting is swinging. Swinging is not just this. I have the video on the long swing where I show the whole standing long swing practice where you're moving your whole body. Yeah, your body is swinging, but the swing is actually what you're seeing, not what you're doing. And really the purpose of the long swing is to get you better at the short swing and the shift. And Dr. Bates said that we're supposed to be swinging all day long, from the moment we wake up in the morning till the moment we fall asleep at night. And he didn't mean that we need to be doing this all day. He meant that we need to be perceiving the oppositional movement happening in the world around us all day. So how do we do that? Well, we blink all day and we shift all day. You need to blink anyway. It's impossible to go too long without blinking. Your eyes are going to dry out, your eyes are going to hurt, your vision's going to disappear. So if you can associate every single blink you do with a shift or a swing, then you are swinging all day long. So as I'm looking at the camera, I'm noticing the world around the camera, not just my central vision, but my peripheral vision. As I blink, it's like the whole room wiggles. It kind of shakes very subtly. You know, Bates says that when we blink softly and easily and gently and unconsciously, the vision appears continuous. But that doesn't mean that it is stable or stationary. That just means that we're connecting the image from before the blink to the image after the blink. But it might be a little bit different. Not only will it maybe appear in a slightly different position, or it looks like the background kind of wiggles or shakes when you blink, but the quality of the image might even be better. Because I don't want you to only associate blinking with shifting and movement and swinging, but I also want you to associate it with clarity and clearer vision. The purpose of blinking is to lubricate the eyes and to clear the vision. So how amazing would that be if every single blink you did led to better vision? It's possible. It's happening for me right now. If I hold my eyes open for too long and I stare, my vision gets blurrier, it gets worse, my periphery starts to disappear. This is very uncomfortable right now. Right when I start to blink again, the image comes back, the clarity comes back, my eyes feel more relaxed, the details return to the room. So we need to blink in order to see clearly. You don't want to be neurotic about it. You don't want to be blinking all super fast or super hard or constantly obsessing over the world wiggling and shaking around you. It needs to be a subtle kind of low-level awareness that isn't a distraction from what you're looking at or who you're talking to or what you're reading. It's happening in the background. It's happening in the subconscious. You might have to practice it on the conscious level for a certain amount of time until it sinks back to subconscious. But I just mentioned the biggest enemy of blinking, which is staring. And Bates even says it here, staring stops the blinking. I love that sentence. And one thing that my vision teacher told me all the time about blinking was that blinking breaks the stare. So although staring stops the blinking, blinking can break the stare. And I used to stare a lot. I used to be really good at staring. It's funny how we sometimes take pride in our bad habits. But now I hate staring. And like I was just demonstrating it for you, it made me feel uncomfortable. My eyes started getting dry and hurting, and it got blurry, and I didn't like it. And so now my system has rewired, and now I blink softly and easily throughout the day as a way to stay relaxed and stay clear. So please be very mindful of your bad habit of staring whenever it shows up in your life. Whether that's passive staring, like just kind of spacing out, just kind of like daydreaming and your mind wanders and your eyes are just in park and you're totally disconnected from what you're looking at because you're super focused on what's in your head. That's more of a passive stare where you're just kind of checked out and your eyes aren't moving at all. Or if you're doing an active stare, which would be like looking at a computer for hours or looking at your phone for a long time without looking away, your eyes might be moving around on the screen or on the book, but you're staring at one focal distance for too long. So whether you're doing passive staring or active staring, you need to be incorporating blinking as a way to break that stare and be able to get your eyes to move and to adjust near and far as well. So check in with your blinking. Have you lost the blink? Or have you continued to blink easily and softly as you watch and listen? So to finish up this video, I want to bring your attention to reverse blinking. This is the connection between blinking and central fixation. Because blinking doesn't just accompany shifting, it's also necessary for centralizing. And I have a whole separate video that teaches this practice called the fundamental principle, or reverse blinking, or central fixation. But just as a reminder, let's do it real quickly together right now. A regular blink is when you go from having your eyes open to having them closed real quick and then open again. So a reverse blink is when you have your eyes closed and you have them open real quick and then closed again. Dr. Bates called this flashing, but nowadays that has a slightly different meaning, so I call it reverse blinking, because we just blink in reverse. So if you close your eyes, you want to think about a color, maybe your favorite color. Just let that color fill your mind. It might take a minute for you to see that and kind of let go. You might have a little bit of an after image of the screen if you've been staring. So just breathe and relax and let your mind relax and calm down, and just fill your mind with any color you want. And when you feel ready, you're going to reverse blink. So you're going to flash your eyes open for a fraction of a second, and then they're closed again. And you come back to your color, and you come back to your breath, and you come back to your relaxation. And when you feel ready again, you're going to flash open on something else. Maybe something other than your screen, something else in your room. And please do this without glasses or contacts, because I'm just going to keep flashing as I talk, and I encourage you to as well. But give yourself enough time in between to relax and breathe and come back to your mental image of the color. If you do this without glasses, what you're doing is you're cultivating clear flashes. And in order to improve your vision permanently, you need to cultivate and experience temporary clear flashes multiple times every single day. You need to be feeding your brain little moments of clarity without artificial lenses, natural clarity. So try it with things up close, whether it's your fingerprint on your hand, or a piece of paper, or a book, or an object up close. Try it with things in the distance, maybe look out the window and try it. And try it with anything in between. But experiment with your aperture and your shutter speed. So your aperture is how wide you open your eyes. You might want to experiment with opening your eyes normally, or flashing open just a little bit, or flashing open quite a lot, really opening your eyes wide and then closing. And you can also experiment with different shutter speeds. So you can do a fraction of a second, like the fastest little picture you can take by opening your eyes and then closing them again. Or you can hold them open for a little longer, maybe for a half a second, and then close. Or 1 full second and then close. Or 2 full seconds and then close. But the idea is to start very rapidly, very fast, just like a blink would be. To not really give yourself very much time to strain or to diffuse out of your central vision. Good, so even though blinking and shifting and central fixation are these different concepts, I want you to really realize how they're all working together to help you see more clearly without your glasses. And it's the way your eyes are supposed to work. And when you wear glasses and contacts, guess what? You don't have to do anymore. You don't have to blink. You don't have to shift. You don't have to centralize, because the glasses or the contacts are taking the job away from your eyes. They're like, whatever, eyes, you don't need to do anything anymore. We'll take care of it for you so you can do all the bad vision habits you want. But when you take them off, you need to learn how to blink and shift and centralize as a way to bring the vision back naturally without depending on the lenses. And as I mentioned in my computer vision syndrome video, blinking is even more important when you're on the computer screen, because screens statistically decrease our blink rates. And the less we blink, the more our tear film evaporates into the air. We get dry eyes, we get itchy eyes, we get irritated eyes, eye strain, blurry vision, headaches, And so when you're on the computer, like right now when you're watching this, and when you move on to the next video or you go back to whatever you're doing on your computer, please don't forget to blink. More than you might blink when you're not looking at the computer screen. It's so important, but be sure to do it right, like Dr. Bates says. So I want to just finish up by reading a couple of question and answers. You're going to hear more of these in future episodes of the Better Eyesight podcast, where we go through and read them all for you. But in some of the editions of that publication, Dr. Bates answered some questions. And there's a lot of questions about blinking. So let's dive in. Question: I find conscious blinking a strain because I close my eyes temporarily and seem to hold the eyeball stationary. If I shut my eyes for a longer period, would that be blinking? Answer: no. The normal eye blinks consciously or unconsciously without effort, without strain, and quickly. Question: by blinking, do you mean shutting and opening the eyes quickly, or is done slowly like a wink? Answer: blinking is done quickly and not slowly like a wink. Watch someone with perfect sight do this unconsciously and follow his example. Question: when I look at an object and blink, it appears to jump with each blink. Would this be considered the short swing? Answer: yes. You unconsciously look from one side to the other of the object when blinking. So that's the one that I was telling you about, to notice that the world shakes or jumps every time you blink. It's an example of the short swing and the connection between blinking and shifting and swinging. So that's an important one. And I'll finish up with this one. Question: often when I'm trying to see a thing, it will come to me, but my eyes will commence to smart and then I blink and lose it. What shall I do to overcome that? This is a question I get all the time. When people start getting clear flashes, they lose it when they blink. And this happened to me. When I would get clear flashes, everything would get clear, and I would blink it and it would get blurry again. And I didn't like that. I liked the clarity. So I was actually afraid to blink. I thought that the blink was making the clarity go away. So let's see what Dr. Bates has to say. Answer: blinking can be done correctly and it can be done incorrectly. You strain while you blink. The normal eye blinks easily and frequently. Strain is always accompanied by the stare. By standing and swaying from side to side so that your whole body, eyes, and head move together, the stare is lessened. The swing and the movement of the eyes lessens the tendency to stare. So if you've had that experience where you get a clear flash and then you blink and it's gone, that is an indication that you are blinking with strain. You're blinking incorrectly. Because if you were blinking correctly, the clear flash and the clarity would still be there after you blinked. And this was bad news to me. I thought I was on the right track. I thought I was doing it correctly, but it turns out I was still straining when I blinked. So the connection he makes here is that it's the stare. When you get a clear flash, a lot of times you accidentally stare because you're so impressed. It's so beautiful. You're like, oh my gosh, it's clear, I can see, and then you lose it because you start staring. So it's not necessarily the blink, it's the stare that makes you do an incorrect blink. So his antidote is to start moving. So when you get a clear flash, begin your swaying or your gentle swinging as a way to decrease the stare. And if you blink as you swing or sway, there's more of a chance that that clarity is going to remain and maintain after you blink. But as I mentioned, there's also a big mental component to it, because I realized that I had developed a fear of the blink. I associated the blink as something that chased the clarity away. So I had to work on that. I had to overcome my fear of the blink, and I had to increase my faith and my confidence that the clear flash, the clarity, was still going to be waiting there for me even after I blinked. So hopefully you have learned a little bit more about blinking today as a very crucial and important vision habit that a lot of times gets overlooked. Like I said, when I first learned about it, I kind of scoffed it off as like, well, that's almost too simple. That it couldn't possibly lead to better vision, but I'm pretty amazed to say that it really does. And that's actually a topic that came up. I was recently interviewed by Jay Brown on his podcast, Yoga Talks. He had a similar response when he first learned about the Bates method of like, this stuff is almost too simple. There's no way it could work. How could swinging and sunning and palming and blinking actually heal the eyes and improve the vision? But that's the beauty of the Bates method, is its simplicity. So I encourage you to go listen to that episode. It was a great conversation. It's a podcast called Yoga Talks. And also make sure to check out the new Better Eyesight podcast that we've just got started this year. And there's actually a way for you to support the show and become a Better Eyesight League member, where you can meet up with me and the other vision teachers once a month on Zoom to discuss the topics we cover in that podcast and ask questions, kind of like Dr. Bates answered people's questions in his Better Eyesight magazines. Head over to my website to get all the details about my vision retreat in October of 2019 and May of 2020. Watch my other recent video that explains these vision retreats so you can learn more about what they are and how they work. Stay tuned for when the enrollment opens for my next 6-month vision improvement program, the online group course that's going from November to April. And keep your eyes peeled for the Vision 2020 documentary, From Eyesight to Insight, that's going to be released in 2020. So thank you so much for watching today, and happy blinking.